we go. Welcome to another Zoom call. Just a reminder to make sure you're checking your announcements. Last week we went into detail on TrueRife software update. Actually, they pulled the 6.4 right now because they're having issues with it, but still watch this video. It's on your member site. Again, if your 6.0 current software is working just fine, there's no need for you to update. Right now, we can't even update to 6.4 because they are fixing some things. So just keep running your programs. If you did update to 6.4, make sure you look at the information on the member site. I won't go over that all again, because I went over that in detail last week, and it's all on the member site. So, okay, so first question. A friend watched a video where you talked about a smoothie with carrots, celery, and apple in it. Do you have a recipe or suggested ingredients for that smoothie? No, I don't. So we have a lot of people that will be juicing, and typically this is the probably the most common juicing protocol for cancer. This was really big part of Max Gerson's juicing protocol for cancer, which is carrot, celery, and apple. And then making a smoothie out of it. Personally, I don't like smoothies. I like to drink my drink, not have to, not have it be thicker where you have to kind of chew it down. So I like to leave things juiced. So there's times that I've juiced carrots, apples, and celery. Sometimes put other things in it, whatever vegetables that I had, you could put in it, really whatever you have. So we have people that are juicing all sorts of different things. And then it depends on how you define a smoothie, then some people are putting some protein powder in it. Then some people are putting their greens in it, their Pectosol, there are other things that the powders that they're adding to that. I guess you're calling that a smoothie. So I've called that a smoothie. That's it. My wife calls it a smoothie. She puts some yogurt in it, and different things like that. So it's just how you want to make it. If you are just blending and not juicing, I do believe if you have a really strong blender, like a Vitamix or even a good NutriBullet of some kind, you can, blend the carrots, apple, and celery. I think it would have a hard time with some of at least I think the carrots and celery would be difficult for a blender to get through. But I do think with the Vitamix, you could blend it up and make a smoothie out of it. But really, when we're talking about smoothie, you're just adding other things to a juice. Do you have any other greens powders suggestions that don't have stevia? Well, so yes, there are some other greens powders that we have on the store that don't have stevia. So the Garden of Life has some greens powders. Numedica has greens powders. There's a nitro greens from Biotics. And what I suggest about those, I've, personally, it's just part of it's a matter of taste. We've had people try different greens and they like them better than the greens first, and that's great as long as they're a good balanced greens. The only issue that I have with some green powders that are out there is that they aren't all just ground food. You mean that they're not just all whole food. They put in some synthetic nutrients. They might put in extra methyl tetrahydrofolate, things like that, because they think they're trying to make it just like a multiple. There is a Pro Greens by I think it's Nutracology or something like that. That we do have on the store that is an organic greens, and I don't think that one has stevia in it. I have not tried that one, so you could try that one. That's probably the closest to the greens first as far as its contents goes. But I have not tried it. Numedica makes some different green shakes, but I'm not so keen on those. They use, whenever you see natural flavorings, I'm always suspicious that there's, chemicals in that. Monosodium glutamate or something like that to make them taste better. And yes, supplement companies do play those games sometimes to sell product item like that. Dr. Cutters, I continue to appreciate all the support receiving from your clinic. I've been reflecting back on our phone appointment regarding my latest labs, which show some of the tumor markers still elevated and some remaining stable, and others were within normal range. My glucose continues to be higher than optimal. This person's glucose still wasn't even over 100. Should I be changing anything I'm currently doing? No, I think maybe getting another cheek swab to retest some things, that might be a good idea. On the other hand, I meant to ask about my current supplements. I've heard on the Zoom calls that it's a good to switch up supplements as well as diet. Is another cheek swab warranted? So that's a good question. How often should we do cheek swabs? So I'm doing really great. On one line of thought is, hey, I've been doing really great. I'm in a state of remission. I'm not really, and the person just continues and they don't change anything and they continue on their protocol. And that's one philosophy, and it can work really well for some people. Other philosophies out there is that even when you're doing great, sometimes it's good to change protocols. Now, I tend to favor that and do another cheek swab, because typically when we test people, even if they're in a state of remission and they've been doing great for a year, we test people, it changes. Your body changes. I take them off of things and change them onto something else, because that's what tests best for them. Cancer is always is changing and constantly trying to find pathways of better replication. And you just kind of you're better off staying ahead of it. So getting another cheek swab is warranted. How often should a person do a cheek swab? Well, certainly when they have changes in their body, let's say their symptoms change majorly or something like that, they don't feel well. If it's something like, hey, in the old days, I guess you'd go to the doctor when I felt this way, that's time to get a cheek swab. And then maybe every 3 to 6 months, it's good just to get another cheek swab, even if you're doing great. Thermography, is it good to do thermography? Well, you should follow the schedule of the thermography, the last thermography. So again, you would not follow that schedule if you had changes, you felt another lump or something like that. But when you do thermography, at least through a Meditherm clinic, they'll give you should do another thermography in 6 months or 3 months or 9 months or 12 months, and you should just follow that schedule unless there's changes. These things I intended to bring up, I'll be checking with labs again in January, continue on regular detox and right programs. The PA I have been seeing for my thyroid medication is recommending that I do a cleanse. Okay, so if you look at my detox course, you'll see that, I don't really believe in doing cleanses. You're constantly cleansing, you're constantly doing that, you're constantly supporting detox pathways and such. You're doing coffee enemas, you're doing a cleanse. So I wouldn't think that. She thinks I have leaky gut. Well, certainly we could do some tests for a leaky gut. That would be the Cyrex 2, 3X and Cyrex 4 to test for those things. Those are good things to test for. Can you just assume that everybody has leaky gut? Well, yes and no, but yes, it would be a good idea to be checking for that. If you could afford to do some labs, it's always better to do the labs. So maybe, you have a lot of questions. Maybe we should just chat again and schedule a time to chat with me again. What's the best time of day to do the cheek swab? When I send it, will a blood send it? I will get a blood test. So should I wait until you get the swab before I get the blood test and make an appointment to speak with you? No, you could, there's not a best time of the day to do the cheek swab. You shouldn't have food in your mouth. Just do the cheek swab. We're just getting your DNA. So it doesn't make any difference what time of day you're doing the cheek swab. If you want to make an appointment with me that has to do with your information on your blood test, then we got to wait till we get your information of the results back. If all the blood results are normal, then you really don't need to necessarily talk. But let's get your blood test, get the results, send those to me, then you can schedule a time to talk with me. My AST and ALT, these are liver enzymes, are elevated, and the pharmacist said it's likely due to the gabapentin. So what are things that could elevate your liver enzymes? Well, if I have metastasis to my liver is going to be irritated, and that could elevate my liver enzymes. Oftentimes, a person can have metastasis to their liver, they don't even have elevated liver enzymes. So if I had elevated liver enzymes, the first thing I would think of would not be metastasis. I'd think of what's affecting my liver currently. So even if you're like on ibuprofen, that can raise your liver enzymes. It can be very irritating to your liver. Certainly any prescription medication, if you're on chemotherapy, that can raise your liver enzymes. Anything like that that can overwhelm your liver can raise your liver enzymes. So it's really nice that you have an honest pharmacist. And you can look up the drugs you're on. Certainly do a Google search of the different medications you're on and see the side effects of those drugs. Problem is that the gabapentin has taken away 75% of my hot flashes, so my hormone blockers, and I can finally sleep. How concerned are these levels? AST 53, ALT 92. Well, again, it's like it's hard to say that, it was just saying that there's, I don't have to be worried about this. There's not going to be that much damage to my liver at that. These are markers. So these are markers that your liver is being taxed. So, yeah, I mean, you got to balance it all out a little bit. Maybe just try to support your liver in different ways. If you want to stay on the gabapentin because it's giving you a lot of relief, then maybe just try to support your liver with doing more coffee enemas, doing more castor oil packs, things like that for your liver. Also, maybe talk to the pharmacist or the prescribing doctor about reducing the dosage of the drug. Many people are surprised that if you take 75% or maybe even 50% or even only 25% of the current drug you're on, or you titrate down to that, it still has the same effect. It still has the same benefit, but it's less toxic to your body. So consider those options. You're on a lot of turmeric, anything else? So we talked about that. Any Rife programs, certainly the liver programs on the Rife, that's what I would look at. The normalizing frequency folder has programs for different organs, and you can look at the liver programs in the normalizing frequency folder. There's a different person asking this question. In addition to the rash, I seem to be retaining fluid, arms, legs, face, puffy. Could this be related to kidney function or an allergic reaction or other? So when you're retaining fluids and you're getting puffiness, you think of things like, okay, is there blocked lymphatic? Certainly if you're getting fluid in your face is getting puffy, and your arms and legs, then you don't think so much lymphatic. So you think lymphatic as if both your legs are swelling or your one arm is swelling after surgery or something like that. There's a blocked lymphatic drainage. When you have more systemic fluid, you think of things like allergy to something. And when you have systemic inflammation like that, you think of like a reaction to a medication. That's what I would think of. Certainly kidney function. So you're on the right track with that. Your kidneys are what drain that, and certainly kidney function can affect that too. I would definitely get some blood work to make sure your kidney function is within normal limits, and that's cleared up. Okay, sorry, let's finish this. As for my blood work yesterday, my eosinophils are high. So what will raise eosinophils is different parasitic infections, fungal infections. Most common thing that raises eosinophils is an allergic reaction. So parasitic infections, fungal infections, you don't think that that ties to increase in retention of fluid. So that doesn't fit the piece there. An allergic reaction certainly ties into retaining fluid and elevated eosinophils. So I'd be concerned about possible reaction to a medication. So a person can have, so let's say a person's not on any medication whatsoever, and they go in for a blood test, and let's say they have really bad allergy issues, let's say like allergies to pollen or something like that, seasonal allergies, and they get a standard CBC done, at a physical, they could have elevated, just slightly elevated eosinophils. That has to do with the allergy, that their seasonal allergies. If a person isn't prone to seasonal allergies, has never known to have elevated eosinophils at different times of the year, they're on different medications and they have elevated eosinophils plus the retention of fluid, I would definitely talk to the prescribing doctor about possible reaction to a medication. As far as what relief you can do to that, always you want to find the reason why. So you want to do what I just said and talk to your prescribing doctor about that. As far as you got to figure out the reason why first before you start trying to solve the problem. I used freezer pack mittens and slippers for the first chemo and plan to use them again for the second as well. Second round is tomorrow. However, I've been having occasional numbness and tingling in my fingertips. It goes away for the most part if I get active and intentionally pump blood into my hands. Is this a sign of the beginning of neuropathy? It certainly can be. Neuropathy is going to be, typically neuropathy is going to start with tingling and some pain in your hands and tingling, and then you're going to get numbness. It goes to numbness. So anything can happen even after one round of chemo. So the ice can help that. So using those freezer packs can be helpful. If so, is this unavoidable at this point? Can I do something to stop it? I would say continue to do those types of things. Again, you could look at the neuropathy posts and look at possibly using a rebuilder. Make sure you're doing the ion pro wave. Make sure you're supporting liver pathways, everything that we talk about with liver and detoxing and doing coffee enemas and such like that are going to be the best help to try to get that stuff out of your body so it does the least amount of damage to your peripheral nerves. My most recent scan results showed for colorectal cancer going from stage 3 T3 to T4A due to tumor penetrating the visceral peritoneum. I understand there's a risk of perforation, but not sure how significant. I talked to a radiation oncologist. He says a low risk with certain current circumstances. An oncologist makes it sound even more serious. Seems to throw a wrench into some plans for metabolic treatment. So this person was considering going a full metabolic approach, going on a ketogenic type diet. And funnel things back in the direction of allopathic treatment. Perhaps awkward to comment, but welcome any thoughts anyway. Yeah, I think it's always difficult to know what to do. Should I do chemotherapy and radiation? Is it the right time to add that to my protocol? It's such a difficult thing to comment on. But certainly if the cancer is not going in the direction that we want it to be going in everything that you're doing, you got to consider other things. But doing a metabolic approach, this is just what we talked about before. You're changing up your treatment. It's not like, I mean, I don't think your oncologist saying you got to do something right now. You got to make a decision in the next couple of weeks. We got to move ahead with this. You still have time to try something else. I mean, if it was me, I think I would switch up my treatment the way, we've been talking about, and try this and see if that makes a difference within 3 months. And then, set yourself some parameters that, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to make this change for 3 months. And if I'm feeling better and, the scans are not progressing in the wrong direction, then I'm going to continue on with that. So I think you still have time to try some different things. So that's what I would suggest. At my last oncology appointment, they were concerned about possible infection. So they prescribed an antibiotic to take for 5 days. I protested because I have a history of not tolerating antibiotics. But they said 5 days would not be a problem. Well, it was. And my gut has been killing me. Is there something I can do to improve that? So when you take antibiotics, it damages your gut microbiota. And antibiotics will damage the cells of the gut lining, the epithelial cells that line the gut. And it just throws off your whole flora and throws off your everything. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take antibiotics at different times, but some people are more susceptible to issues with antibiotics too. Personally, I can take antibiotics and have no trouble. But honestly, I think I've taken antibiotics, maybe half a dozen times in my life. So it's, and it partly has to do with the health of your gut before you started taking antibiotics. What to do to improve that, though? You have to work on healing the gut. I would say start on so I think I made a blog post, not specifically on antibiotics, but let me go to that because I think I actually linked it to our homepage of the member site. So on the member site homepage, I think I have a link to, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, so, okay. Let's see, yeah, I think it's the top one. All right, let me look. Well, it ties into H. pylori because you think, what does H. pylori have to do with me taking antibiotics and damaging my gut? Because that's how H. pylori starts. So damaged gut. So H. pylori is killed by antibiotics, but it's not going to kill everything. So anything that damages your gut increases the risk of H. pylori starting. So look at this post on, it's called H. Helicobacter pylori Information and Care. And that goes through the different steps to work on healing your gut. So it's the post that looks like that. So look at this post and it goes through the steps. Stage 1, look at dietary allergens. Well, that's not your issue. Make sure you're taking digestive enzymes with HCl in it, because you need to support your stomach's ability to break down the food. And many, many times that is the reason why people don't tolerate antibiotics, is because they have a decreased HCl in their stomach. So look at that part. Step 2 is looking at supporting your got this, I would not necessarily take ParaClear to begin with. See if I have more information on that. Jeepers. I will, I will find the post, I'll put it up on the member site that has more information on healing your gut, and what to take for that. So give me till tomorrow and I'll do that. I went to an integrated clinic and they ran a metals test. I tested high for copper and she suggested I stop taking the Avamar because it has some copper in it. Do you agree with this? I think we should do another cheek swab test. And can you send me the tests that you had done, please? And then we should maybe have a conversation. Per my question about being puffy, it started 2.5 weeks ago after my first chemo. Yes. So certainly it could be a sensitivity to the chemo. It's just really the part of the issue is that chemo is toxic. So you go, is this a sensitivity? Is this an allergy or is this toxicity? And it's affecting my kidneys. To make sure you get some kidney tests done and ask for that even before your next chemo, because they'll definitely do a white blood cell count at CBC and make sure they're looking at some kidney function tests as well. Could you possibly suggest a good allergy medicine for my cat allergies? Yes, it's called Catnomor. You just get rid of the cat. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, so cat allergies, they're on the market. There's over-the-counter antihistamines and things that can help. And by the way, I have a section of my book about antihistamines with cancer, particularly breast cancer. They can be beneficial, meaning over-the-counter antihistamines. But as far as nutrition to help with any external exposure type allergens, whether it be environmental allergens from animal dander or allergies from pollen and environmental things like that, you have to look at the clear histamine scavenger. We have 3 different main products for histamine issues because that's what allergies do. They raise histamines. It would be the clear histamine scavenger is the broadest. Then we have natural clear hist, which is some of just, I think it's 4 or 5 main things that are common for airborne and environmental type allergies. And then we have HistoClear, which is a DAO enzyme, which breaks down histamine in the gut. So that would be mainly for food based allergies. So don't get that one. So I would start with clear histamine scavenger. I think that's the broadest. That's what I would start with. I think that's your best bet. Is the Rebuilder an accessory for the Rife? No, it's something else completely. It's on our store. It's a standalone little machine that looks like a TIMS unit, but it's very, very different. It's FDA approved for neuropathy. Comes with all the instructions and such. And they're great little units. What are your thoughts about taking bentonite clay internally for detox help? So bentonite clay is a great binder. So it binds onto things in your gut. It's something that's in our clear binder product, our phase 5 clear binder. And it's a great binder for things in your gut so that you don't reabsorb them. Do take them, take it away from food at least, and away from your other nutrients that you're taking, so you're not binding anything like that. I'm glad you guys find my sense of humor. Because not everybody does. So, yeah. So bentonite clay is a great binder. So, let's see. I want to see if I know I have. Okay, so if you just search gut on our blog, I have tons of blog posts on gut health. So some of the things that you'd think of as far as healing your gut naturally, you have to be careful when you have cancer, because the most common nutritional product to help heal your gut, going back to that question about the gut back here, is L-glutamine, because L-glutamine helps epithelial cells reproduce so quickly. Well, you don't want to necessarily do that when you have any form of cancer. But like deglycerated licorice and a lot of the things that are in those healing products can be beneficial. We have a product that we've private labeled called Clear GI. Now, it does have some L-glutamine in it, but it is, the reason why I private labeled that product is because out of all the gut products that are on the market, it has the least amount of L-glutamine. So I thought that it was going to be fairly safe for our cancer patients, because the product label tells you to take a tablespoon a day, and if you only take a teaspoon of it a day, you're getting 500 milligrams of glutamine, which is far less than a lot of the gut healing products out there that, some have up to 4 grams of glutamine. So 500 milligrams or a half a gram of glutamine, I thought was acceptable if you're taking it on a short-term basis to help heal the gut. It also has all these other great things that help with the gut, like slippery elm and chamomile and okra and cat's claw and MSM. And you're already taking quercetin, I think, but those are the things that can help heal the gut. But you want to add a probiotic also. And there's been tons of studies, medical studies out in the last couple of years that show if you take a probiotic, when you take an antibiotic, if you have to take an antibiotic, it definitely reduces your issues that you can have. Next question. I've got some numbness around my underarm because of my surgery. They said it takes time for the nerves to regenerate, but some may be permanent. What else can I do to help that? That's where the Rebuilder would come in. That's one of the things the Rebuilder does, is it helps stimulate nerve growth at a much higher rate, using the frequency of the nerve itself. But definitely helping detox, doing everything you can to help detox the arms as well. The surgery caused physical damage, not chemical damage like chemotherapy, but that would still help. Sorry, did you say there are over-the-counter histamines, antihistamines, that are beneficial for breast cancer? So yes, an over-the-counter antihistamine medication has been shown to help people with breast cancer. And the real reason is because histamines can be a problem with all cancers, but certainly have been shown through multiple studies to be a problem for those with breast cancer. So antihistamines taken just on a daily basis, over-the-counter antihistamine medication, have been shown to be helpful for those people with breast cancer. Can be helpful with anybody with any cancer, but certainly with breast cancer. All right, any other questions? Heard that high dose melatonin is good for before a scan with radiation. Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know that you can really prove that, though. That's the difficult thing about something like that, because you can't really measure your rad dose of radiation, the damage to the tissues. It's like, oh, take high dose melatonin. It does, there's some sense to it from a metabolic pathway, but it's impossible to really prove that. Because you can't measure the damage the post-damage radiation. Somebody who hasn't taken it, somebody who has taken it, but that is something that you can do. Certainly, high dose melatonin can be beneficial for cancer in itself, and taking that before bed. We have some patients that are taking 100 milligrams of melatonin and up before they go to bed. Thank you. You can send that to me. Yeah, I read some things about it, but it's hard to measure that. What's the best heavy metal supplement? I'm trying to think of a joke for that, but I better just bite my tongue. So you're talking about detoxing heavy metal, so you don't really want a heavy metal supplement. But I'm sorry, I have a very warm sense of humor. But so things to detox heavy metals are, I would go to the course, go to the 7 phases of detox course. So if you've worked through all the phases of detox and now you just want to chelate out the heavy metals, my favorite one is our phase 0 Chelaclear. Also, the Metal-X Synergy or the phase 0 Assist, our phase 0 6 can be very good. Hey, but Pectosol C is really good. That's another thing. And then there's milder chelator. So part of it has to do if you still have a lot of metal fillings in your mouth. You can't use a heavier chelator. You can't use the one I first mentioned. If you don't have any heavy metals in your mouth, if you don't have any, implanted metals in your body, then you can use some of those heavier things. But it's all listed on the 7 phases of detox course. You see any concern with doing high dose vitamin C in conjunction with radiation? I do not. And you may want to talk to the place that you're getting high dose vitamin C, but I have not heard of anything, and I think it can actually be helpful. So some people will say, well, don't take, but I'm not a fan of stopping any antioxidants when you're doing radiation. So like when you're doing, if you're going to do chemo, I tell people to stop taking antioxidants for 48 hours. I don't think you should do that with radiation. Radiation is very pinpointed and very specific. And by taking antioxidants, you're not going to decrease the effects of the radiation. So you want to get that out of your body as fast as possible. It's going to do its damage immediately. It's going to kill immediately. And you want to get that out of your body right afterwards. My tumors are on the left side of my neck, which have affected my left parotid gland since January. It's extremely painful, stabbing pain. It can last several minutes when I begin to eat or cry, or many things trigger it. I dread it. Is there anything else I can do to help it? I think you've tried some hot, cold things on it that can decrease the pain, that can decrease the stabbing pain. I would think of that. And everything else that you're doing, you're continuing to, anything you could do to decrease the size of it and decrease the inflammation is going to be your friend. So if you're doing the chemo pills on, I would say I would still do the vitamin C IV. And the reason is that really high dose vitamin C, if you're doing vitamin C IV, that's what you're talking about, high dose vitamin C. Many people think that it's really an oxidative reaction, not an antioxidant. So I would continue it if I were you. There's a comment for Dina that might be helpful. So when you go in there, you're not gonna go in there and ask for specific tests. You're just gonna go and say, this is what my symptoms are. Can you test for kidney function? You're not gonna be able to go in and just ask for a specific test. So I would just tell them what's going on, that you want to talk to the doctor, that this is what's happening, this is my reaction, let them examine you, let them make the decision. They may decide to postpone it. So you have to be ready for that too. Okay, with that, I think we'll call it a night. Thank you all for participating. We'll get this back up on there. And we'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.